Okay, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this gorgeous little Christmas tree snowman and star decoration. So I'm hoping you can sort of see that. We're going to be using Fimo modelling clay. So I'll tell you what we need to do to start off with. You'll need a craft knife and a cocktail stick and a little star cutter or a template of a star. So the first thing we need to do is to condition the clay. We've got about a quarter of a block of the Fimo clay. So we're going to condition it. Conditioning just means we're going to soften it to make it a little bit more pliable. So I'm going to roll it and fold it together. Now it's nice and soft, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it into a ball, and I'm going to place it on my tile. Move him out of the way, put him down there. I'm going to place the clay on the tile, just flatten it with my fingers first, and then I've got a rolling pin. You don't have to, if you don't have a rolling pin, you can use like a jam jar or a bottle, or even sort of the smooth barrel of a pen would do as well. So I put those up there, and then you're going to just roll it. Just keep turning it around like you would with pastry, I suppose, and then keep checking to see if your template will fit on. I think it's nearly there. You can also lift it up and sort of stretch it a little bit, and then place it on, and that will just about do. And you can just press it on with your hand, or you can actually cut out with if you're using a template. So I'm going to lift that off there and put the red clay to one side. You can sort of smooth off the edges because sometimes it's a little bit sort of raggedy around the edges. And what we're going to do now is, because you've been using red clay, I've got some baby wipes, and just need to give your hands a really good clean. There are certain colours which sort of come off on your hands quite a bit. So the red you can see from on the cloth. The red's quite bad. Black and the dark bottle green that we're going to be using for his hat really comes off on your hands. So just give your hands a bit of a dry. I've got a bit of a tissue there because the clay really doesn't like it when it gets wet. Okay, so we're going to be using the white next. So I've got a little piece of white here. I'm just going to add another little bit to it. I don't think I've got enough there. It is difficult to tell exactly how much you need. It's a bit of a trial and error. So I'm going to roll this clay into a ball. When you're using white, don't worry if you have little specks of other colours in it. That is completely normal. You can see that I've got a little bit of black there, or even a little sort of tiny fibres and hairs. Just don't worry about it, it happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten it, and that is going to be the basis of the head. I'm just going to give my tile a little wipe as well. So I'm going to place that on the tile. So we're going to do his hat. Again, I'm going to give the clay a little squish. This is going to be for the top part of his hat. And the brim of his hat. I'm just going to give it a little roll into a tube as well. So what I'm going to do with my knife, I'm just going to cut the top of his head off. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt. I'm going to place the little brim of the hat on there. Now that's a little bit too big, so I'm just going to sort of cut it down at each end and place that on top of his head. Now the hat part, the top part, I'm just going to flatten. I'm going to make it into like a square shape. So I'm going to squeeze at the sides and at the top and the bottom, so it's a little square shape. And then I'm just going to bring it in a little bit at the bottom, so it almost like tapers, so it's narrow at the bottom. Cut a little bit off to make a nice smooth edge, and then place on the hat. Now I'm pushing my finger into just to give it a little bit of an indentation at the sides, just to make it a bit different. Now the green will again come off on your hands. Okay, so with a little bit of the red, I'm going to make the little band that goes across his hat. So I'm just going to roll it into a little tube and just place it on. Now what you can do is with your knife, you can just sort of push it around the edges just so that it goes round. Move him out of the way. So for the scarf, again, just condition the yellow. Now this clay has actually got a little bit of glitter in it, so it's quite sparkly. I'm just going to condition this. So there we've got a little tube of clay. I'm going to flatten it slightly. And I'm going to place, just cut off the end. I'm just going to place it around his head. Now I'm just going to cut a little bit extra off there, it's a bit too much. And then with the extra little piece, I'm just going to cut 2 extra pieces for the bits of his scarf. So what we can do, we can use the cocktail stick to just push into the yellow clay to make the sort of the ridges of the scarf. And then place the other 2 little pieces on there. And then with your craft knife, you can do some sort of the fringe bits of the scarf. Okay, so for the nose, I'm going to use a tiny little piece of orange. And I roll it into a ball. And I'm going to place the little ball just right in the middle of his face. And then I'm going to pinch it with my fingers. So I'm sort of pointing it one way and pointing it another way. Sort of smooth the face out. And for the eyes, it's the tiniest piece. So I find it much easier to roll the clay into a thin tube. Take 2 little pieces, roll each piece into a ball and place. Sometimes it's easier if you use the end of your knife. Now for the eyebrows, I've used my sort of craft knife to just two little indentations, and then to make the mouth with your cocktail sticks and give him a bit of a smile. So just curve it around, and I tend to do two little dots in the corners of his face, in his mouth. Okay, so we're going to make the holly leaves next. So just take a small piece of green, roll it into a little tube, and we're going to cut 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then going to roll each piece into a little ball, flatten them slightly, and then you're going to pinch them to make them like into a little tiny diamond shape. A little bit fiddly, but it looks really good. I'm not doing the proper holly shape because it's much too difficult to do with this tiny bit of clay. So, okay. So once you've got your little diamond shapes, again, if you get your cocktail stick, put it onto one end of the sort of diamond shape, and then you can place it onto his hat, and then the other 2 I'll place on his scarf, put it that way. And then with your red clay, cut 2 tiny little balls of clay for the holly berries. And then press into place. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lift, with the orange, we're going to lift this off and then putting it onto the star. So I'm just putting my knife just quite gently underneath, just bringing it right way around and then placing it on top of the star. Doesn't matter if bits overlap. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make the hole where the string goes or the ribbon goes through. Just make a little hole and then just keep wiggling that cocktail stick until you can see the sort of the surface underneath. And then with your cocktail stick, you can then do some sort of little dots. And there you have it finished. So you just need to put it on a piece of foil, pop it on a baking tray and bake it at 110 degrees for about half an hour, and then leave it to cool completely in the oven, and then you can actually put your ribbon through once it's baked. I hope you like that, and it'll be lovely on your Christmas tree. Thank you.